Harlequin and HarlequinAudio present The Greek's Surprise Christmas Bride by Lynne Graham, a Harlequin Presents novel, performed by Carolyn Morris, and The Queen's Baby Scandal by Macy Yates, a Harlequin Presents novel, performed by Zara Hampton-Brown.
Chapter 1. Leo Romanos, billionaire shipping heir, woke up at dawn with 4 children in his enormous bed. He had freaked out the first time it had happened, bought pajamas for the first time ever, and hired a 24-hour round-the-clock rota of nannies. But the nanny rota wasn't working. His late sister's traumatized kids still got out of bed in the middle of the night and slunk into his, and they brought the babies as well. It was a wonder that he wasn't traumatized, Leo reflected in wonderment. 5-year-old Popey had 10-month-old Theon tucked in her arms, and 3-year-old Sibella had 2-year-old Cosmo clasped next to her. His nephews and nieces weren't happy, weren't secure, in spite of all his efforts to make a home for them. And for their benefit alone, Leo was willing, finally, to make the ultimate sacrifice. He would take a wife prepared to be a mother to his 4 inherited children. His father and stepmother had refused to take charge of their grandkids and had signed over their guardianship to Leo, his stepmother insisting that his father was too old for the task. And in truth, Leo hadn't appreciated the extent of the challenge he was taking on. He had assumed that the nannies would enable him to return to his normal life. Workaholic hours followed by the occasional party or dinner, and regular visits to his very sexy mistress. Only somehow, it wasn't working out that way. Leo's wonderfully smooth and self-indulgent life had gone to hell when his 5-year-old niece had sobbed as if her heart was breaking because he'd said he wouldn't be home for dinner. Guilt and more guilt had dogged him in spades ever since. The children needed more than he was capable of giving them, which meant he had to step up, take a wife, and give the kids a mother who would do all the things he didn't want to do and keep them happy while allowing him an uninterrupted night of sleep. He suppressed a groan, knowing exactly where he would head to find that wife. 6 years ago, he had been offered a bride from the Levers family, a practical dynastic marriage which would have ended the competition between the 2 shipping companies, amalgamated them, and made him the heir to both empires. The alliance had offered him an enormous profit and tremendous prospects, and the proposed bride had been a beauty. But even so, he had hesitated. Leo had loved his freedom and still did, and the potential bride had hinted at a dangerous desire for his fidelity, and he had balked at that tripwire and backed off fast. Leo had been raised in the belief that marriage was for business, property, and heirs, all that sort of legal stuff. There was no room in marriage for the adventurous sex and variety which Leo considered to be an absolute essential of life, so he had stepped back. But 4 troubled, needy children crawling into his bed made him far less exacting in his expectations. As far as he knew, Alexis Levers was still on the market, and suddenly he was willing to consider a deal. Isidore Levers met him in his Athens office, a very traditional setting, far removed from Leo's very contemporary place of business in the city of London. He was quick to inform Leo that his daughter Alexis was on the brink of an engagement and no longer available. Leo suppressed a sigh, not of disappointment, because his current mistress was considerably sexier than Alexis. However, he had warmed to the concept of marrying her, because she was vaguely familiar to him.
However, I have a granddaughter,
Isidore admitted grudgingly, surprising Leo with that information.
As I'm sure you're aware, my son went off the rails.
Leo nodded, for the world and his wife were aware that Julian Levers, product of his father's first marriage, had taken to drugs and drink and manic bad behavior from an early age. He had died in his 20s from his excesses. Isidore had Alexis later in life with his second wife.
2 months ago, I learned to my surprise that Julian...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?